Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast, Career Growth with AI. It's a guide for FP&A professionals. We're with Daniel Villani here. Daniel, please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Daniel Villani. I've worked in technology for the past 15 years. Started out, doing basic IT support, moved into project implementation, and the variety of my focus right now is on EPM, BI, and AI as well.
Fantastic. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go into these questions. How is AI, such as ChatGPT,
hmm
transforming the traditional roles and tasks of FP&A professionals?
That's a great question. I think it's important first to know that AI has been around for a long time. It's been made popular, and the things to talk about by ChatGPT. But really a lot of organizations right now are still trying to figure out how to use AI effectively. I think right now the transformation that's happening in organizations is fairly basic, but I think that as time goes on, we're going to see heavier and heavier investment into this space, since it can bring so much value to a company.
Thank you. So, can you describe the most significant challenges FP&A professionals face when integrating AI into their workflow?
I think the biggest challenge right now is that companies are trying to figure out, how do I use AI and what does this mean to me? So, what I mean by that is, ChatGPT can do a lot of things. Google Bard. There are a lot of competitors in the space, and they can all do a lot of great things. But I think right now companies are trying to figure out, can it do it accurately? Can it do it efficiently? What's this particular AI good for versus not? And also based on terms of use of a lot of these programs too, is that you don't want to just necessarily put your financial data into it and say, hey, show me the trends on this, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that data is being used for training, depending on what kind of license that you have and subscription you have to it. So I think companies are trying to figure out how is my data going to be used, and how do I use this now so that I get some benefits while mitigating the risks.
Cool. So, what are the key benefits of adopting AI in financial planning and analysis at the moment?
I think AI right now is is shortening the learning curve in order to be successful in the role. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of things that required specialization in the past, and a lot of experience to be able to do. And AI can quickly and efficiently replicate many of those tasks. So what it's not great at right now is if you say, hey, look, can you find me some trends on the following data? If you don't know what to ask it,
Sure.
the quality of the output you're going to get is not going to be very helpful, versus if you do know what to ask it, it's going to be very powerful. I had it the other day write a macro for me, in order
Mm.
to automate a task that I was doing for a client. And I typed in the inputs. I got a very accurate output macro within, I want to say, 30 seconds. It
Uh,
worked on the first try. The reason why it worked on the first try is because I knew what to tell it, right?
yeah,
I knew that because I can write macros. I knew that if somebody
yeah,
asked me to write a macro, here's what I would ask them, and I plug those in. Versus if you just say, all right, write me a macro that calculates X, Y, and Z, it's going to make some assumptions based on where your data is, because you didn't tell it where the data was in the worksheet. You didn't tell it what worksheet to go to, what cell
sure.
to go to, that kind of stuff. And it's going to write something assuming you're in cell A1 of the current worksheet, and you're going to run it and you're going to say, this thing doesn't work, AI is horrible, I'm not using this, right? So
Sure.
the quality of the output is going to depend on if you know how to use it. But if you know how to use it, it can get you the results that you're looking for, orders of magnitude faster and more accurate than if you had a person working 24/7 on it, eventually the person's going to get tired. The accuracy of what they're going to produce is going to go down, with the longer hours they work versus stick AI on this, and it's gonna work as long as it has to analyze enormous volumes of data in order to be able to get you to that result.
Sure. And how does it contribute to accurate and efficient financial forecasting in your respect?
So AI is great because you can have it find patterns that maybe you wouldn't normally know to look, right. Like I used AI for a project. This was when I was starting to evaluate it. I said, oh, can it do data mappings for me in my data load? And so here's my source data, here's my target data. You tell me how what mappings happen to get from source to target, and what columns map over here. And it did it very accurately. Again, the quality is going to depend on the prompt and how you tell it. But it's the same thing when you're going into forecasting, where you can say, here's my last well, first you can ask it, hey, what have you found as the most accurate drivers of how
Mm,
my sales are going to be in the next year. And it'll say, all right, well, look at these 5 factors over here. And you say, all right, let me tell you what these 5 factors were for me in the last year, 6 months, or whatever that time horizon is. And you tell me how you would go and do this, and it'll do it. And like all forecasts,
mm,
I think the level of accuracy that you're going to get with it, there's always factors that you just can't account for, no matter how much data you have. But it's going to look at hey, these are the different factors, here's what it is. But the important thing is that it's not just about forecasting once. You go, you do the forecast, you get the result. You can now plug those results in and say, hey, here's what you predicted, here's what
sure.
actually happened. How do we improve this model for next year? And it'll go through and it'll say, oh, well, this happened during the year, and
Yeah.
and maybe there's a randomness factor that gets applied, that gets adjusted as time goes on. So it's not necessarily about plug this in and your end result is going to be 10 times better tomorrow. It's about over time. This is going to be mining a lot of data and looking at what happened versus what didn't. And for a company to do that by hand, and without some sort of program or AI looking at it, you're going to be hiring 3 4 people whose sole job is going to be come up with every single possible factor you can
Wow,
possibly
that's
come up
true.
with, and
Yeah,
come up with a model for this. It's still a forecast, it's still not going to be right.
true, true.
It's the trade-off of how much are you willing to invest in something that's still random, versus
Yeah,
being able to put something on. Do we get 80% of the way there and say that's good enough, or are we striving for 100% and willing to spend $100 million and still not get there?
cool. So could you explain the data harmony process and how it aids in integrating AI with financial reporting?
Right. So I run a process. I call it, data harmony, where it's really looking at, your data as a whole. So it's quality of data, accuracy of your inputs, outputs, what drivers are in there, and how this plays into getting, more efficient. I'm a big proponent of using technology and, coming up with innovative solutions in order to get the end results you're looking for. I have a couple patents that have been
Oh,
granted, with another one pending. Where for proprietary technology I've built in order to help. So we look at things like, can we automate the testing of our data to make sure that calculations, inputs, outputs, all of that is exactly what we expect. It's not just about looking at a report and saying, here's my profit for the year. It's
yeah.
it's really being able to say it with confidence. A lot of CFOs, especially, have to sign off on the numbers. They could be penalized with jail time over here if if the
Yeah.
numbers are wrong. So it's about, getting efficiently to the end reporting while also ensuring accuracy, quality, and all of that.
Cool. It's an interesting question, this one. How do you see AI impacting the career trajectory of FP&A professionals in the next 5 years?
I mean, I think if you have on your resume that you have experience with AI and you can demonstrate capabilities of usage, I think it's going to put you well ahead of your peers. In the next 5 years, I think right
Yeah.
now it's going to be super important to have AI skills around, like, nobody's going to expect for you to be an expert at coding machine learning algorithms and all that kind of stuff in FP&A right now. They're data scientists, other functions within the
Sure.
organization where, like, the coding aspect of it is important. I think what's important at this point in time from an AI perspective is how your they call it prompt engineering skills are, right? How well can you type into chat gpt, bard, any AI engine with a question or a problem or something to solve and get to the output. That's the important part right now, because AI can do what you tell it to do
Sure.
fairly well, but it's still relying on what you tell it to do. 5 years from now, I don't think that prompt engineering is going to be as important. I think the AI is going to be able to
Yeah.
tell you, in order for me to complete this task, these are the 5 things I need. Now, you go off and fetch those 5 pieces of information, and and then I'll complete the task. And it'll know what to ask. It'll know how to ask you those
Mhm.
questions in order to get the answer. So I think the importance of it is probably going to go down over time, because it's going to get smarter and it's going
Yeah,
to
interesting.
be able to fill in the gaps. But I do think that it's very important that you hear all over the news over here, companies trying to replace jobs with AI,
Yeah.
and oh, we got the AI doing this. And we have
Yeah.
to be very careful about, you can have AI do a task, but there still needs to be some type of manual control in place, that there's somebody reviewing the AI's work. I've had it write articles for me, for the website or whatever, and I say, give me a statistic on this. It gives me a statistic. I say, okay, can you please cite the source? And
Mm.
it says, well, there is no source to it. This is just based on what I understand. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, but you told me 37% of people, do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you made it up, right?
Yeah.
There's no way to go and check it, right? So it's important to understand that, and from, like, an auditing capability of, if you have AI doing a task, you need to have some sort of trail in there that somebody can follow the thought process of, how did you get to this result. So understanding the AI, being able to input the prompts, but being able to prompt it in such a way where it's traceable what steps it's taking, so that
Mhm.
you can also verify it. I think that's going to be like a good midterm kind of skill for somebody to have, using AI in FP&A.
Sure. So, what are some common misconceptions about AI in context of financial planning analysis?
I think some of the misconceptions are around, a lot of it is when people don't know how to prompt the system, and you go and you put in a prompt that gets you to a result that you don't want, right? It's You end up saying, well, the AI is bad. It doesn't do what,
Mhm.
what I want it to do, right? So the important thing to understand is, they're all different AI systems out there. They're all good for different things. I wouldn't do market research in Chat GPT, because Chat
Mm.
GPT is only good as of April data in there. Google Bard is better for market research. So, like, if I went and asked Chat GPT to do market research for me, I say, oh, AI is terrible because I didn't
Yeah,
get
of
my
course.
the end result. But you use the wrong AI. It's similar to a company trying to do dashboarding in their ERP system, right?
Oh, sure.
There really aren't many ERP systems out there that support it, and you say, oh, the dashboarding is horrible. When just ERP reporting in general is not meant for, dashboards and robust analytics and, all that kind of stuff. So you want to use the right tool for the job. You want to understand what tool do I use when, and you also want to understand how do I prompt this tool in such a way that I get the output that I get.
Cool. So how can FP&A professionals without a strong technical background start incorporating AI into their work?
I mean, the best way to start is to just start. It's okay in the beginning. You have to go in with the right expectations, right? Is the first time you prompt an AI system to do something, it's not going to be as good as the 100th time that you prompted on how to do it, right? There's a level of, there's going to be experience required where if you don't know what the output is going to be, then it's very hard to understand how do I go and ask it for what it is that I need. So you just have to enter some prompts. You can, search online for what's the best prompt for this. There are plugins available that, help you along the way. So start with some research, start with a basic task, and, go and just fiddle around with it. And just as I mentioned before, just be very careful, because the free plans of all these systems are taking your inputs and using it to train the models. So you don't want to put, your unpublished financials for your organization into Chat GPT and say, hey, tell me what to do. But you can put in generic data sets and just kind of see how is this responding. What types of capabilities are out there, what types of workarounds are out there to be able to do it. You don't really know that until you just jump in and start asking it and start checking its results. And after a while, you're going to get to a point where you're probably going to know what it's going to tell you before it tells you, because you're now used to just the type of output you get based on the input.
Oh, fantastic. So can you share a success story or a case study where AI significantly improved the financial process?
Yeah, so there are a couple examples that come to mind. There's FP&A software out there that I work predominantly with Oracle and Workiva software. So my responses are going to be a little bit skewed in the direction of features over there. But with Oracle technology, they have predictive planning capabilities where you don't have to know how to do regressions and all that to auto predict. That you click a button and it'll tell you, hey, here's what the forecast is for there. I think it's in early stages for like more kind of specific advanced case studies for AI, because companies are still fiddling around with it. Workiva's putting a new feature in for being able to auto comment on your presentations and things like that, where it's going to write the narratives for you so that you don't have to do those kinds of things. I've been investing heavily in AI, and some software that I have will automatically like document your systems for you, so that way no one likes keeping their documentation up to date, and it takes a person leaving and somebody else coming in and to realize that half the system isn't documented. So I've been building systems even before the emergence of Chat GPT, all of that on can you have a system document, test, tell you here's some gaps in your system, like things like that are definitely great use cases for it.
Okay, so what advice would you give FP&A professionals who are kind of hesitant about embracing AI at the moment?
I mean, if you're hesitant, it's the whole early adopter versus late adopter for anything, right? There are people when the iPhone came out that said this is the worst thing ever, I'm not going to buy it, right? And what ended up happening is now you have to struggle to find a phone that's not a smartphone, right?
Sure, of course.
It's the same thing with AI. There are going to be companies that embrace it early. There are going to be companies that are going to say, you know what, this thing is overhyped, and it's not going to help, and it's never going to succeed. What's going to happen is AI is going to be implemented pretty much everywhere. Maybe not in the next year or two, but long term, you're going to see a huge adoption and use of AI, and the companies that are playing around with it now are going to be the ones who win, and are better positioned for success than the ones that wait until let's see if it takes off, and then we'll start playing around with it. Well, your competitor's been playing around with it for 10 years.
Sure.
At that point, they are going to be much better than you at it.
Fantastic, Daniel. Thank you so much for today. It's a great introduction to the AI and FP&A. Definitely would like to do different podcasts with you in terms of this area and other areas that in AI, but also look at some of the tools that you have. And yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on the show. Take care.
Take care.